When I was a kid, my dream home was to live in a penthouse in New York City. It would be a corner unit, it would have floor-to-ceiling glass windows with this spectacular view of Manhattan out every single window. And now, I have a chicken that lives in my dining room. How on earth did I end up here? But before I get into all that, I have to backtrack just a little bit. A couple of years ago, we were living in a brand new house. We had bought new construction in 2017, and it was a beautiful house. It was clean, it was modern. We didn't have to redo anybody's bad decorating choices from the 80s. It was a gorgeous house, and we loved every minute of it. But my husband had always dreamed of having acreage. From the time that we got married, he's always wanted to have a house with a great big yard. And by big yard, we're talking acres, not just, a large backyard. He wanted acreage. He wanted to be surrounded by woods and have privacy and be able to sit on the back porch in the morning with coffee in our pajamas and not be like, "Hi Joe, hey Sally, hey Fred, what's going on?" And then 2020 happened, and say no more, right? And we decided that if we were going to be stuck in our house all the time, it really needed to be somewhere that we loved. So in the fall of 2020, we sold that house, we packed up, and we moved to the country. Now this house is probably only 5 or 6 miles away from our old house, but it is a world apart in terms of lifestyle. Having grown up in the city and eventually working my way out to the suburbs, I had no experience with country life at all. I had no idea what I was doing. I had never had farm animals before. And so this has been quite the learning experience for me. So today I'm going to share with you some things about living in the country that maybe you don't know and you definitely want to consider before you decide to take the plunge. If we haven't met yet, I'm Karin Carr with the Georgia Coast Homes team here in Savannah, Georgia, and my real estate team specializes in helping people relocate to Georgia and South Carolina. So if that sounds like you are going to love this channel. First thing you need to know if you're going to be living in the country, and if you are surrounded by woods like I am, is that there is this awesome little thing called poison ivy. Do not go outside in shorts and flip-flops walking around in your yard. I have learned from experience, I gotta wear boots. I gotta wear knee-high boots anytime I go out in the yard, because I caught a nasty case of poison ivy, and it is going on 8 weeks and it has not resolved yet. In fact, I have a dermatologist appointment today at 2 p.m. to try to figure out what the heck is going on. So if you are surrounded by wildlife and wilderness, cover your legs when you're walking through the underbrush, because it's around, folks. And tip number 2, which is along the same lines, if you are surrounded by woods like this, there are slithery things that live out there. There are a lot of snakes out in the country. Now, I lived in blissful ignorance for the first 6 months that we lived in this house. As far as I was concerned, there were no snakes. I never saw any snakes, therefore there were no snakes. Well, one day I was walking down my deck steps and we saw a big old snake hanging out from underneath the deck. Turned out that it wasn't one snake, it was 2 that were all coiled up together, and we thought they were copperheads, so my husband did what was necessary. After we were surveying the damage, we took this awesome little app, the Google app on your phone, where you can take a picture of something and it tells you what it is, and it said it was a corn snake. Corn snakes are good because they eat the bad snakes. So non-venomous snakes are good in your yard. They eat all the mice and the critters and things like that. We just don't want to have any water moccasins or copperheads slithering around in our backyard. So again, boots are extremely helpful. Just watch where you step and don't leave piles of brush around the house. If you are cutting down tree limbs and you leave a big pile, they're going to go right underneath there and hide. So keep your lawn part tidy, and they will not be just out in the middle of your backyard most of the time. They're looking for a place where they can hide underneath piles of brush. If you don't give them those places to hide, then they'll go find somewhere else to live. Why do I have a chicken living in my dining room, you may ask? Well, that's a good question. I learned that chickens are very mean to each other. And this particular chicken got sick, and in the pecking order, which is a very real thing in nature, I have learned, the top chicken gets to eat first, and then the second in command gets to eat next. And if you are a low chicken on the totem pole, you eat dead last. A chicken who is injured or ill and can't defend themselves automatically goes straight to the bottom of the pecking order. And they were bullying her, they were picking on her, they were coming up and like pecking her in the head and making her injury even worse. We had to quarantine her and bring her into the house and make a little makeshift chicken coop out of a cardboard box to keep her away from these girls until she could heal so they would stop picking on her. This is Eggnog. This is our injured chicken. See how her head is just hanging upside down? It's a condition called wry neck. They don't really know what causes it. We're treating it as best as we can, but until it resolves itself, we're keeping her away from the other ones because we don't want them hurting our poor little baby. Isn't that right, Eggie? The first thing I didn't know about chickens was that you don't need to have a rooster. I had no idea that you could have chickens, hens, that would lay eggs without having a rooster. The good news is, without a rooster, they're not nearly so noisy. Now, they do a lot of this because they think I'm coming to bring them treats. They're spoiled rotten. But they don't crow at all hours of the night like roosters do. So you don't have to have a rooster. If they lay eggs, they will never become baby chickens because they haven't been fertilized, but they will still lay eggs all by themselves. So with our 6 grown chickens that are producing, we usually get 4 to 5 eggs a day. We have a lot of eggs. My husband built this hen house because the hen house that came with our house when we bought it was way too small, and it was old and it was kind of falling apart and not very nice. So he spent a good 2 months making this amazing chicken coop with a little enclosed run because there are predators out here. And you don't want a hawk or owl or raccoon to come and eat your chickens. Oh, the ladies are coming down the stairs. They were all inside laying eggs, I bet. Let's go see if we've got any eggs. They love to go in the far back corner of the hen house to lay their eggs, which is a pain because I can't reach back there, and that's why I have that little rake down there. I can't reach with that rake. In fact, my husband is at Lowe's right now buying a longer rake so I can grab them and pull them back, but I'm gonna have to put something back there to keep them from going to that corner because we want them to lay their eggs in the nesting boxes. So chickens are extremely food motivated. I had no idea. They will come right up to me and eat out of my hand if they think they're getting sunflower seeds or any little treats that we pick up at Tractor Supply. They love it. I also didn't know that chickens automatically go into the chicken coop at dusk and come out in the morning. They know that they need to be safe from predators, so they voluntarily go into the hen house, and then you just come and close the door. We lock it with a little carabiner on the outside so that no predators can get inside and have a little midnight snack. But having to get up at 5:45 and run outside to let the chickens out first thing in the morning and make sure that you get home from dinner in order to put them in and tuck them away at night is kind of a pain. So we found this awesome automatic door. It is called the omelet door, and it senses daylight. So at night, it automatically closes at 9 p.m. and it automatically opens now at 5:30 a.m. or whatever time is appropriate based on how much sun is up. And it just automatically closes. And then it automatically opens in the morning, so I don't have to get out of bed at the crack of dawn to go let the chickens out anymore. It's really cool. Did I say that chickens aren't really noisy if there aren't any roosters around? I may have been slightly over-exaggerating. If you decide you're going to have a chicken coop, they need a hen house, a place where they sleep at night, where they will be protected from the elements and from predators. They feel safe. That's also where they're going to lay their eggs. But then you also want a place like this where they can go outside and run around. They can free range. They can run all over your backyard. They can run loose. They don't typically run away because they know where they get fed and they want to be close to the food source. But keep in mind, if they're out in the open and you have owls or hawks, they can just swoop down and take those chickens and bye-bye. So we don't typically leave them out running around all day unless we're there with them supervising. The rest of the time they are in this enclosure where they're completely protected. Because I don't want anybody to come steal my chickens and eat them. And this is where we have the little babies. They're not allowed to go outside yet because they're too small. So they have this little heat source in here. And they've been trying to fly out, so we had to put a lid on top to keep them from getting out of the cage. Hi guys. Hi ladies. Did you know that you do not have to refrigerate farm fresh eggs? We just keep them in this awesome little basket, and check out the assortment of colors that we have. Don't fall out. The next tip is about trees. These trees get super tall. I don't know how tall they are, 100 feet tall. But trees have a life expectancy. They don't last forever. When they come to the end of their life, they just tend to randomly fall over. So we pick up a lot of limbs after a storm. After a good thunderstorm, we have to go out the next morning and there are tree branches all over the place. In fact, the day after we built our chicken coop and put our girls in there for the first night, the next morning there were huge tree branches all over the ground, all around that coop. Now, if they had been outside in the yard walking freely, those branches could have fallen on them and probably killed one of them because they're falling from a very high height. So you just need to know that if you've got a lot of trees on your property, they are not self-sufficient. You're going to do a lot of maintenance with these trees. You're going to have to take down the ones that are dead, the ones that are diseased. You're going to have to be picking up a lot of branches after storms. And you want to make sure that if it's a super windy day, you're not just walking around in your backyard where one of those tree limbs is going to fall on you or one of the little ones. Another thing you need to be aware of is that you might be on well and septic. Now the cool part is that you won't get a bill. You don't have a water bill and a sewer bill from the city. The downside is that you got to maintain those systems. So this is our pump house. Our pump for the well is in this little house. It's pretty easy to maintain. You just want to make sure that if any problems arise, you get it serviced right away. With the septic system, the biggest thing to remember is you do not flush anything down the toilet except toilet paper. You do not put any paper products down there. You don't put anything down it that would not easily decompose in time. One of my favorite secrets is to take a tomato and just leave it until it's super overripe and disgusting and squishy. I throw it in the blender, we grind it all up, you pour it down the drain or you flush it down the toilet, and all of that bacteria that's making the tomato decompose goes into your septic system, helps break down everything that's in the septic system so that it can leach out through the tank into the ground around it. We also have this crazy thing called Carpenter Bees. Now I've heard of them before, but I didn't really understand what they do. Essentially, they like to drill holes in your house, which becomes a problem. Remember that scene in Superman where Clark Kent, Superman, was so angry over Lois Lane dying that he flew around the world as fast as he could and he turned back time? That's kind of what Carpenter Bees do. They take their little bodies and they spin so fast, they turn themselves into a little drill, and they drill holes in your house. Now apparently they only target unsealed wood. So if your house is painted or it is otherwise sealed, you're good. However, we were finding little piles of sawdust all over our front porch, and I determined that they were drilling on the underside of the railing, the banister. I didn't know why till I put my phone underneath there and turned on the camera, and lo and behold, the underside of the wood had never been painted. So the first thing we did was paint the underside of the banisters. Didn't fix anything. Apparently, by that time, they knew where they were drilling their holes, and I believe they go up in there and they lay eggs, and we don't want that. So that didn't deter them at all. The next thing we tried was silicone caulking, and we took the caulking gun and stuck it up in the holes, filled the holes so that we could fill all of the little places they were drilling holes and hiding. That also did nothing. They just got in there, dug all the caulking out, and continued to go back up into their little holes. Then things got ugly. My husband got tired of this and made this little contraption out of paint stir sticks and duct tape. And let's just say There's a little bit of bee carnage going on. Now, before the YouTube bee police come after me, I know it was not the right thing to do. They are good pollinators. We don't want to get rid of all the bees, but I also don't want them destroying my house. So we resorted to that for a brief period of time. I'm sorry. Finally, I saw this little device at the store, and I'm at my wit's end because I have not been able to get rid of these carpenter bees yet. And as you can see, these are the piles of sawdust that we come out to on our front porch on a pretty daily basis. We are still trying to figure out how to get them to go away. I called a local exterminator, and he said really there's nothing you can do about carpenter bees except seal the wood so they don't come in the first place. But once they're there, getting rid of these guys is a real chore. So today I'm going to try this stuff. We'll spray it up in the hole and see if this foam expands, and then maybe they can't get it out again. And if so, they'll hopefully go find somewhere else to live. I also saw this amazing post on Facebook that my friend Kelly shared with me. They said to take a paper bag, fill it with crumpled up plastic bags. It makes a great big ball, and you hang it in the area where they're hanging out because they think that it's a giant hornet's nest and they will go away because apparently carpenter bees don't like hornets. The problem is I haven't been able to find a large paper bag in forever. No grocery stores sell their stuff and put them in paper bags anymore. So as soon as I can find a paper bag, I'm going to try that. It is totally bee friendly. It will just make them go find somebody else's house or tree or wherever to bother rather than my own. So I'll report back when I know how either of these two treatments work. Have you ever thought about living out in the country? Well, in this video, I show you a driving tour of Effingham County in Savannah, so you can find out if living in the country is all that it would be cracked up to be. So see you on that video next. This is Daisy. She lays blue eggs. That's Neptune. She's the bully of the flock. That's Marty. She's named after the zebra in Madagascar. That little fancy lady there is Audrey Peckburn. This one is Robin back there. By the time we got to her, we were just stumped for names. Sorry, Robin. Another thing that I learned, always wear boots.